would issue a press release, but I believe it is imperative, especially seeing the fact and expecting that we would be cut off and not be allowed to speak, that no second round was held to rebut statements made on the floor of Parliament, that it is imperative that the general public understand what has been going on over the past few months and weeks, culminating in what happened on Friday with the 2 meetings being called, etc. Of course, the Chair of Parliament has the option to call meetings at any time. I can remember clearly, and MP Arian can correct me if I'm wrong, when there were the talks to form a government on St. Martin, that the broad discussion was the main priority at the time, as broad as possible. The first glitch we saw was when one member of Parliament or elect opted to state that they would not work with a faction in Parliament, thereby cutting all corners for any type of coalition that included their membership, both of them at the same time. This, of course, put the ball squarely in the hands of the United Democrats with the majority of 7 to form the government, and thus they were appointed. MP Heilige was appointed as the informator. Several meetings were held, which we participated in wholly. Lots of questions were asked. How will you be able to work together? How will you be able to work together? And we answered them to the best of our knowledge, understanding the dynamic of politics and years of politics and bad blood on St. Martin. However, seeing that the National Alliance came in with so much new blood, we had hoped that we would be able to forge a new way of doing things moving forward. Yes, you still have politics as usual, and the free mandate allows for that. Once you are elected with a party and you go to the governor's office after your credentials have been appraised by the previous parliament, and you raise your fingers and you pledge or you swear allegiance to hold up the Constitution and to represent the people of St. Martin and the King of the Netherlands, you are mandated to speak as an individual. And so parties can continue to have faction meetings, we can continue to forge one way ahead, but ultimately each person has one voice in Parliament. And so when these meetings were convened, no one has a problem with appraising and approving, if you would like, the credentials of incoming members of Parliament, because that is the way the Constitution works. Once a group resigns, the next group automatically is appointed via the Electoral Council. They get notice of such, and they are due to be sworn in after the regulations have been passed. We felt that there was an unnecessary rush for this, getting the meeting convocation the day before, noting that we already, some of us, had other engagements that could not be moved, noting that 2 members of the opposition, namely Doran and Bryson, were already scheduled to travel on that day. So that would have made it impossible to have the full mandate to be able to have such a meeting. Notifications gone out in time, and still the meetings were held. And then it's promoted in the public as if it was done with deliberacy. Now, some may have or may not have been done, but as again, I can only speak as a member of Parliament on the floor of Parliament for myself. You understand? And as I said on the floor of Parliament, the National Alliance is not a dictatorship. Each person has their own mandate to vote their conscience and to be present at meetings where voting or decisions are taken at their discretion. Of course, we are serious in representing the people of St. Martin, and this in no way states that we are not. So it is very, disconcerting to see that from April 2nd to now, we have requested meetings, they have not been convened. We have requested urgent meetings. We are told urgent meetings need to be requested in this way, with this explanation. And this urgent meeting that was requested had no explanation as to why it was this urgent. As far as we were concerned, it was the last day of the sitting of this Parliament before the recess, which we'd received notice that we would be breaking as of July 3rd, which is today. So we could not see where this urgency to bring in new members of Parliament to go on vacation was necessary. We believe that the first meeting after the break would have been more than enough. If we want to talk about a constitutional crisis, having 7 members in opposition and 6 that support the government when there are no meetings held, how is that putting your government in crisis? As a matter of fact, and I reiterated this in the meeting that was recently held right here in Parliament to approve the credentials of the 2 incoming MPs, we could have created a constitutional crisis way before Friday, if that had ever been the intention of this opposition. Several meetings were held only because we as opposition members were present. The sitting coalition of 8 were hardly, and I can maybe I can challenge the media and or the public to go back to those meetings to see how many times that as soon as members of parliament of the opposition were in the hall, we were able to start the meetings because we would be the ones that would create the quorum. And so to even suspect that we are not doing this to create a constitutional crisis, I think is insultive, and especially seeing as we have been working along with this coalition to make sure that the people's business is handled in an open and transparent manner, despite the way that I feel that we are sometimes treated when we as opposition request meetings right here in Parliament.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Tell them, connecting you.
Hysteria around the constitutional crisis, it was not showing up to the meeting, because if all of us showed up to that meeting, that could have caused a crisis. We could have come on that same day, the first day the meeting was called, and also at that point in time, draft or present a motion of no confidence to a minister in particular, or the whole government. So it's not the fact of not coming to the meeting cause a constitutional crisis. It's more fair, and fair on whose behalf, on their behalf, because they know what they did to get there. They know what they did, and having that done to them in return is fair for them. As a government, you have to realize how you want to lead. Do you want to lead in fear, or you want to lead in logic? And I mean fear as in FEAR, just to be clear.
Afraid.
The hysteria around the constitutional crisis is only there because of what happened in the past. started by whom. And that's why I made it clear today, because MP Helliger made it seem as if the opposition does not want to approve the credentials of the incoming MPs, which is not the case.
Never was the case.
And he also mentioned that it has never happened in the past. Obviously, because of the fact that there's never been a slim majority in the past either. So they never had to depend on opposition to approve the credentials, ever in the past. It's always been a majority of from what I remember, at least more than 8. So it's hard to even bring up examples of the past when it never happened.
And as a matter of fact, if I may interject, it was brought to my attention that in the Parliament of the Netherlands Antilles, it happened that actually they didn't allow members of the opposition to come in when there had been resignations. So it can go, it is part of the sweet and the sour of our system. Just like the vrije mandaat, it's sweet for when it's sweet, and then when you cannot quote unquote control, then you see the sour parts. In the same way, in this case, we have 7. If we had all our members of parliament on island and they had all their members of parliament on island, 7-6 prior to today. And what would be the benefit of us taking a vote of no confidence then? That we continue for the next 3 years with a 7-6 majority? That is not what we constitutionally want to do. It makes absolutely no sense. And the same slim majority. So that anyone would point to that as being a crisis because we in opposition would take advantage at this moment. We had much better opportunities, and I could say this, prior to Friday to do so, especially when we were debating things of a magnitude to the country in the sense of the budget. And it was thrown just now in the closing statements by the chair as if those things are not what it was about. It's about having the rights of the people respected. Wow. At this point, I believe that putting country above self-statement is used very, very selectively in St. Martin. And again, we get away with it depending on who is the chair, who is the one entertaining, who is the one controlling what meetings take place, and who is the government sitting at the time.
If you want to look at, a couple of people came to me during the weekend, the long weekend that we had, and a couple of topics came up, obviously. Political maturity is one, and I can speak for myself, at least since even before government fell. The majority of the meetings that were held were only because the opposition were there. So most of the time, the ones calling the meetings were not even there for their own meetings. And there's things that we could go back and check factually. This is not my opinion. This is something we or the media could go back and check from October until now. How many meetings were called by the coalition that would not have been held if somebody from the opposition was not there? Which to me shows a lot of political maturity, a lot more than in the past when I was growing up and watching politics. Again, today the whole spin on it was, or the spin that they tried to put was not approving the credentials of MPs coming in. I've never heard in St. Martin's politics that someone did that, ever. The fact of the matter is, every week we get the convocations a week in advance. Convocations, that's for the public, are the meeting schedules for the week, for the following week. This was not part of the meeting schedule. This, again, was not part of the meeting schedule. On Friday, we had one meeting scheduled, which was the meeting for the Committee of Parlatino, which only had 4 members in it. So, out of the 13 members of parliament, only 4 were scheduled for Friday. So basically and technically, MPs could have already scheduled their vacation or their recess from on Friday, which some did. Some media appointments, their medical appointments. The MPs started to plan their recess. Given the late notice, given the late convocation, MPs gave in their official notice of absence before the meeting happened, not on the day of. The chair still continued to have the meeting. At that point in time, the coalition could have called back the meeting and said, let's do this on a Tuesday. The coalition and the chair could have even emailed all the MPs and asked and let the MPs know the urgency of this meeting and let them know when we're going to schedule it. Fine, the meeting was held, yet still, 2 hours later, we held the next meeting. Honestly, I want the public to understand the logic in this. 5 MPs gave a notice of absence for the day. 2 hours later, you call another meeting. What was your expectation? What was the logic behind that? The chair wanted to prove her point that she controls Parliament. That's the only point that was proven to me. That you, on your prerogative, which was said already before, that it is her prerogative on when to call meetings and decide, and when a meeting should be exhausted, or when we have exhausted our meeting. So fine,
including today.
So fine, you prove your point, all right? And guess what? A meeting couldn't go through, but you prove your point. We had a meeting today. And again, if you've seen it, and if the media has been following the meetings in the last couple of months, you will realize that since the budget debate, for example, as when it first came up, when 2 MPs asked to speak, and the chair decided that we've exhausted in her prerogative, in her opinion, and it is in her opinion, to be exact, that we have spoken enough. So let's shut up and close this meeting.
Even before answers are given.
We had it in the committee of TIA this week again, where she was not a chair. We had a chair of TIAT, and even in that meeting decided how we and what kind of meetings we should call in the committee of TIAT meetings. And again today, if you go back and listen to the meeting of today, the first thing the chair said, the first round will be 20 minutes. She didn't say the round will be 20 minutes. She said the first round. So if someone says the first, we could only assume that there will be at least a second. After the first round, we all spoke, and MP Jacobs asked for the floor again, and she said, "What did she say? No,
there's no government
it's
on
not,
the other
no,
side,
and it's not necessary." You know what that means? In her opinion, you don't need to speak. It's not necessary because the government isn't there. Okay, fine. But I want to speak because part of the rules of order says the second round I'm allowed to speak for 10 minutes or the time allotted by the chair.
And also, it's a debate.
Yeah,
Regardless
that,
to whether you're approving credentials or not, a debate doesn't necessarily mean you have to have visiting ministers or third parties on the other side.
And
members of parliament debate each other. So, Member of Parliament Jacob spoke, Member of Parliament Helliger spoke, Member of Parliament Arian spoke. No one else signed in to speak. We should have all been given an opportunity to speak again, as is per usual in public meetings. And I was not going to get into a back and forth with the chairlady at that point to further strengthen the perception that I was against approval of the credentials of the incoming MPs. It was by virtue of the fact of what MP Aaron was just saying. You convened a meeting the day before. You, at 8 that same morning, sent a change to that meeting for the 10 o'clock meeting, some point after 8 something, Friday morning. You already know several members can't make it. Meeting goes ahead. 11:11, another email comes in. My appointment ended after 11. There was no way I could know that a second meeting was called the same day within 2 hours of the other meeting. So really and truly, when I saw that, I'm like, this is blatant disrespect for the members of parliament who would normally be ready and willing to cooperate had it been done properly. And I could not, in all honesty, see the urgency to do this right away so that people could come in the day we are going, or MPs can come in the day we are going on recess. I would really like to know what the urgency of that was. Is there some special work that needs to happen during the summer while we are on recess? Will special meetings be called now? Because, of course, you know, certain members are going to be going on vacation, etc. What's going to be happening then?
People all across St. Martin are switching to a more rewarding experience. The WIB MasterCard Fun Miles credit card, better known as My Card. Earn 1 Fun Mile for every $2 spent, even abroad and online. This will quickly get you a ton of Fun Miles to redeem for travel, shopping, food, fuel, and much more. But there's more to My Card. Worldwide acceptance, an EMV chip for extra security, and 250 free Fun Miles with first use. Switch to My Card today at WIB.
Fun miles, from within your reach.
Tell them, connecting you.
It's been said that behind every door, possibility awaits. How much possibility depends on which door you open first. Every day, we help our customers discover the possibilities in their lives. It all starts with a conversation. Scotiabank. Discover what's possible.
1,
2,
3,
4. This is how common it is to develop a mental illness. 1 out of every 4.
4,
4.
4. But there is hope. Today, most mental illnesses can be managed and treated. Visit your general doctor if you feel concerned about your thoughts and behaviors or have some difficulty dealing with some of life's issues.
If you have been diagnosed and are suffering from a mental illness, keep in mind these 4 points to help you manage your mental health.
1. Get regular checkups with your general doctor.
2. Stay on your treatment plan to prevent relapses.
3. Find a strong support group in your family and friends.
And 4. Never be afraid to ask for help and look out for the warning signs of your illness.
Remember, you are not alone. We are as close as one.
2,
3,
4.
Learn about mental health illness by going to the Mental Health Foundation's website at www.mhf-sxm.com.
Yeah, well, I don't think that they did enough, but we have now a new government and it's good to see that it is on their agenda. So we see that it is on the new agenda of the government, and well, that there will be a chance to increase compliance. As I said, it's very important.
Also, you said we've met with the General Audit Chamber. The General Audit Chamber just issued its 2017 annual report, and one of its continued saving remark to government has been its compliance with providing its financial statements. How difficult it is for the CFT to do its job without approved financial statements and getting a complete picture of government's overall working?
Yeah, we discussed this issue with the General Audit Chamber, and of course it's difficult for us, for them, but we will continue to work with them, and also the new Minister of Finance has some plans in this. He pointed out that it is very important that he wants to raise the level. So it was on the agenda, and we hope that there will be a new start to improve this.
With the pending departure of Mrs. Plums, there is going to be, of course, a hole on the CFT board of St. Martin representative. Has the new government indicated to the CFT when perhaps a new member would be proposed to the Kingdom Council of Ministers?
Well, this procedure is going on. Fortunately, Ms. Plants is leaving at October 1st, but it will be known in the coming months and before October 1st. That's all I can say about this.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Credits, St. Martin we know that St. Martin has applied or requested for liquidity support. We also know that CFT has given a positive advice. But what we don't know is how much is St. Martin requesting for liquidity this about?
Well, that's, I think, something which will come out in the coming days, what will be the amount. So I don't give you an exact figure because this negotiation is still going on. So, but of course, it's important that it will be enough to the financial obligations in the coming months. But there are still negotiations, so I cannot give you an exact figure.